What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my latest top 10 video. A couple months ago, I did my top 10 films that I want to like, but don't, and you guys seem to enjoy it. I enjoyed making it, so I decided to do the opposite. That's right, you clicked on the video, so you know it. I decided to do my top 10 films that I want to hate, but I don't. So the other video was easy to do because there are so many films that I've changed my mind about, where it went from me thinking that I wasn't a big fan of it to it ended up being that I liked it. However, there are not too many films that I can say 100% that I went into either with negative expectations or that I just was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to like it. And then it ended up being that I liked it. So I had to kind of split some straws. And by that, I mean that there were some times where I would watch a movie a second time and say to myself, maybe this will be the time that I agree with the consensus about these not being good films. And it ends up backfiring. It's like, oh, I actually still like this film quite a bit. So I'm going to include some of those films as well. But yeah, so I'm going to give you guys my top 10 films that I want to hate, but don't. There is no honorable mentions because this list was hard enough to do as it is. So I'll be going from 10 to 1, with my number 1 being the top 10 film that I want to hate. I do, but I just don't. So that being said, I look forward to seeing what yours is going to look like in the comment section down below. And yeah, enough exposition, guys. Let's get started. So at number 10, we have The Three Stooges. This is a film that came out in 2012, and honestly, as someone that grew up watching The Three Stooges, I went in with pretty low expectations because I said to myself, what are the odds of them actually capturing the joy that the original Three Stooges shorts brought me at a young age? And the truth of the matter is that this is not a perfect film. In fact, it's a very middle-of-the-road movie, but it's one that I enjoy. I enjoy some of the shticks that they do. I enjoy the performances, and I do think it has its heart in the right place. Is it flawed? 100%. I think the fact that they have the Jersey Shore cast was something where it was like, really? Okay, I guess we're doing this. The kids are annoying. Anytime the kids are on screen, it's like, oh gosh, no. But anytime that they're focusing on the Three Stooges doing their shtick, it's quite enjoyable, if I'm being honest. So that's why I have the Three Stooges as my number 10. Next up, my number 9. This is part 1 of Netflix controversial films that I happen to like. My number 9, we have Blonde. This is a film that came out in 2022, and I saw it when it first came out, and I liked it. I knew that it was quite divisive, but as time went on, it became even more and more divisive, and audiences absolutely hate this film. So I decided to rewatch it. I actually did a controversial film festival at my place where I watched this and then Amelia Perez. And when I watched both, I went in with the mindset of, you know what, maybe this will be when I'm like, you know what, I'm not a big fan of these films. Let's see if now I'll be in tune with the audiences. And the fact of the matter is that, is Blonde flawed? Yeah, for sure. Does it feel a little bit overlong? Yeah, for sure. But I cannot, in good consciousness, say that it's a bad film. It's too well made for me to say that. The costume design is great, the makeup, the production design, the cinematography, the performances. These are aspects that are done really, really well. So I can't in good consciousness say it's a bad film. But I can say it's a flawed film. But it's one that I still like and I can still defend. Like, it's one that I'm not like, you know what? Yeah, it's a bad movie. No, I can't say that in good consciousness. That's why I have it as my number 9. Next up, my number 8. This is part 2 of that controversial Netflix Sunday festival that I had at my place. And yeah, my number 8, we have Amelia Perez. Look, I've seen this film 3 times. The first time I saw it was before there was a lot of hate. In fact, this was the first time I saw it. It was when it first came out, and critics loved it. Audience were seeming to like it too, but it hadn't really hit the mainstream. So when I saw it, I thought it was rock solid, but I knew that I had to rewatch it because there was just something about it that was special, but at the same time, something that didn't really strike me necessarily during that place of time when I watched it. So I decided to rewatch it. And when I rewatched it, I think that was when the controversy started brewing. But I still liked it. In fact, I liked it even more. So when I watched it a third time, with the controversy and everything in my mind, I'm like, maybe this will be when I'm like, you know what? I understand why people don't like this movie, and I'll add on to the hate train. And I ended up watching it, and I'm like, yeah, no, I think it's a good film. I like it. I love the ambition. I love the musical numbers. I love the performances. There's a lot I like about this film. The only thing I don't like about this film, really, if I'm being honest, is the one music number. It's sung by the one kid where he's, telling the lead character that, she smells like guacamole and everything, or her dad at the time and everything. I'm just like, this song just it never worked. And the 3 times that I've seen it, it's never worked. But you know what? I'm still an Amelia Perez apologist. I like this film quite a bit. I love the ambition. Reminds me of Crash in some ways. And yeah, might not be the last time I talk about that film. But yeah, I liked Amelia Perez, and that's why it is on this list. Next up, speaking of Crash, we have, you guessed it, my number 7 is Crash. So Crash, when I saw it for the first time, I saw it because so many people were telling me that it's ambitious. So many people are also telling me that it's really eye-opening and that it's a really, really good movie. Because, for context, when I went to high school, a lot of people were watching it in health class. I don't know why, to be honest, but a lot of people were watching it in health class. So I heard a lot of chatter. Once I graduated high school, this is one of the first films that I watched during that summer, and I liked it. I thought it was a little bit flawed, but I liked it. And that's honestly been my thoughts watching this film every single time, where the first half I think is honestly great, but then it does dip in quality in the second half, and it does get kind of preachy, kind of melodramatic, but not to a Christian movie degree. But it's still a film that I see why people don't like it because of it winning Best Picture over something like Brokeback Mountain. I can see that. But as the film on its own, I think it's rock solid. I do think that it is well crafted. I do think that it's sturdy. It's just a film that should have won Best Picture, in my opinion. But it's still a film that I like. And yeah, I wanted to hate it. When I watched it the second time, after hearing so many people say that it's the worst Best Picture winner of all time, when I watched the second time, I went in with that mindset, and I'm like, no, I don't see it. I really don't. And having seen every Best Picture winner, I 100% don't think that this is one of the worst. It's not even in the top 10 worst. So I just think that when people say that, they probably haven't seen all the Academy Award Best Picture winners. So yeah. Anyways, that's my spiel about Crash. I like it. Sue me. So Crash is my number 7. Next up, my number 6, we have The Lone Ranger, which came out in 2013. This is a film that, going into it, I got to see an early screening with my dad. And I'll never forget when we went to see it, I went in with pretty low expectations, to the point where I thought that it was going to be a bad movie. But I remember within the first 10 minutes, the film won me over. And by the end, I said to myself, why don't people like this movie? Like, I really don't understand. I heard some people talk about the tonal whiplash, but at the same time, I'm like, this is from the perspective, like the film is being told from the perspective of someone that has dementia. So it makes sense why there's some whiplash tendencies of the tone. But as a whole, this film works quite a bit as a Western action film. I really like it. I think Gore Verbinski did a really good job with it, and I think it stands up on its own, and at the same time just is a lot of fun with some of the best action scenes of a 2010s film. So I really like The Lone Ranger, and that's why it was my number 6. And now we get to the nitty-gritty, top 5. So my number 5, we have Shakespeare in Love. So Shakespeare in Love, this and The English Patient, they were 2 films that I went into thinking that I was going to hate because of just how much hatred there is for this film, because it won Best Picture against Saving Private Ryan, and because it was also produced by the Weinstein brothers. So, going to get this out of the way. Those are elements that aren't necessarily the film itself. Those are elements about the marketing and the fact that it won awards. It doesn't have to actually deal with the film itself. The film itself, I liked. When I saw it, I was like, I don't really understand why this gets so much hate. But then I saw some of the historical context about the Weinstein brothers that was mentioned, as well as the fact that it won Best Picture. But you take those things out of the mix, it's a good film. I think it's very well made. It's got a really good score. Love the performances. And I think as a romantic comedy, it works quite well. Would I have given it Best Picture of 1998? No, for sure. That would have gone to The Thin Red Line. But I do think it's a good film. I've seen it many times. I think half a dozen times, I want to say. So, yeah, it's safe to say I like Shakespeare in Love. But at the same time, in no way can I say that I hate this film. In fact, the first time I thought that I was going to hate it. But here I am, defending it, because I like the film. Next up, another film that, upon rewatch, I thought I was going to hate it, but yeah, just couldn't have done it. My number 4, we have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is the 4th entry of the Indiana Jones franchise. Now, truth be told, when I first saw this film, I went in with high expectations because the trailer was incredible. I thought the trailer was genuinely really, really good, so I was very pumped for this film, and I ended up liking it quite a bit. But when I was getting prepared for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I was, going to watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And the thing of the matter is that when I watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull most recently, I went in thinking that I was not going to like it. But I watched it and I said to myself, it's flawed. It's definitely not as good as the other three films. But I can't sit back here and say that this is a bad film because I do think it has its merits. I think it has its positives for sure. And yeah, I see some issues, but it's not a film that I can hate. And especially after seeing Dial of Destiny, Dial of Destiny makes Kingdom of the Crystal Skull look like a masterpiece. It makes me appreciate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull much more, honestly. So I like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I admit that it has its flaws, but I still like it. That's why it's my number 4. Next up, my number 3, we have Transformers, Dark of the Moon. So Transformers Dark of the Moon is a film that's similar to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. When the film came out, I was very much so looking forward to it. In fact, I loved the trailer. I saw the trailer on repeat. And when I first saw it, I liked the movie a lot. But when I got this box set, I said to myself, is Dark of the Moon still going to be a film that I like? Or is it a film that I'm going to say, yeah, I see why it's hated and I actually really don't like it. And, now that I'm older, I just don't like Dark of the Moon. So I went in with those expectations. And I came out of the film saying to myself, yeah, no, I still like Dark of the Moon quite a bit. I still defend it. It's by no means a perfect film. It does have quite a bit of issues, but it is a film that, from an entertainment popcorn perspective, I like it quite a bit. And yeah, that's why I have it as my number 3. Next up, my number 2, we have Death Wish. So Death Wish is a film that I saw the original, and I didn't like the original. So I had such low expectations for this film because I'm like, it's Bruce Willis. I wasn't really familiar with the director, and it was coming out at the early part of 2018. And not only that, but it got savagely, brutally murdered by critics. I'll never forget seeing the critic rating. I think it was like 15%. I was like, holy cow. But at that point in my life, I was trying to see as many movies as possible in theaters, like a ridiculous amount. Like, I think that was the year that I saw 180 plus films in theaters. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyways, I'll never forget seeing Death Wish because it was a packed theater, like heavily packed. And I said to myself, maybe this will be a film that I still enjoy. Maybe, but at the same time, probably not, because based on that Rotten Tomatoes percentage, I'm probably not going to like it. So I'm going in with that mindset. Opening scene happens, and I'm like, I actually might like this film. And the film progressed, and I ended up really liking it. In fact, that was one of the best theater experiences. Like, seeing audiences react to this film was honestly priceless. And it's a film that I've watched a handful of times, and every viewing, it's the same thing, where I'm like, I still don't hate this film. I still find it to be enjoyable. I think it works with the context of what it's going for. And, honestly, it's one of my favorite Eli Roth films. Not a perfect film in the slightest, but I do enjoy this film quite a bit. And that's why I have it as my number 2. Next up, my number 1. This is a film that also came out in 2018. And I went in with such low expectations because of the trailers and just hearing all the, behind-the-scenes chatter. My number 1, we have Robin Hood. So I own Robin Hood on 4K, but it didn't have a slipcover, so I decided to put on the Blu-ray slipcover when I got it at Walmart years ago. But anyways, this is a film that I saw in theaters. I believe it might have been an early access screening, and I went in with low expectations, like really, really low expectations. Because I was like, there's no way it's going to make its money back. It's getting critically savagely brutalized. So I'm probably not going to like this movie. And lo and behold, I watched it and I said to myself, you know what? Yeah, it's borrowing heavily from Batman Begins to the point of, you may as well call it Batman Begins Robin Hood. But I still enjoyed this film. I still think that it's a good discount version of Batman Begins. I think that the action's a lot of fun. I like the score a lot. I've actually listened to the score quite a bit. Performances are fun. And it's a film that works on its own. But again, it's not a perfect film. And when I watched it a second time, I said to myself, maybe it's because I watched it in theaters that I enjoyed it, but I watched it a second time on 4K, and I still like it. Not a perfect film, but again, it is one that I do have a soft spot for, and it's one that, I wanted to hate the first time, but I didn't. But yeah, guys, that is my top 10 films that I wanted to hate, but don't. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. If you haven't done so already, be sure to follow me on Patreon, Letterboxd, subscription, notification bell, and I will catch you guys later.